Hello and welcome to the ranch, kitchen edition. Today I have a visitor, Mom. I'm the visitor because I'm in her house, but she was so excited to see our summer desserts that we were partaking in the collaborative effort with Granny Moreno, Gail Southern Living, and Yogi Hollow Farm that she just had to get into this action with us. So, as we look at these desserts of being cool summer desserts, she's got one of the best ones that we know of. Throughout the entire year, my kids are always trying to convince her that this is the dessert that she should be making every Saturday when we come over here for dinner. So, without further ado, Mom, viewers.
Hello.
Now, we're going to get a chance to see this awesome, easy recipe that you can try at home. Mom, take it away.
This is a recipe that has been handed down for a while. My mom gave it to me. It's called chocolate Eclair. It's something that my boys loved in the summertime, well, and basically all year round, but they love it in the summertime because it's so cool and refreshing, and it's so easy to make. I never really cared to make it for them. So anyway, you just start off with 2 boxes of the vanilla instant pudding. Now I use this brand, but you can use any brand you want. Whatever you feel comfortable using is fine. And I also use almond milk because we have a couple of kids that are a little dairy sensitive, so we don't. So we use the almond milk so they can have it too. But you can use regular milk, whole milk 2%, whatever you're comfortable with using. If you do use the almond milk, make sure you don't use quite as much. So this has 2 boxes of instant pudding in it. With the almond milk, I only use 2 3/4 cup of the milk. But if you're going to use regular milk, you do it just like the box says, and you use 3 cups for it. But for some reason, it doesn't get as thick with the almond milk if you do the whole 3 cups. So I went ahead and I started it. So you can see it's pretty thick. So I just mix that up real good, and that's just the pudding and the almond milk. And then I'm going to add about 12 ounces of Cool Whip or whip topping. Again, whatever you feel comfortable with using is fine. It's so good you're not going to care what brand you use. So just put the Cool Whip in here, and you need about 12 ounces. I usually do a little bit at a time. I usually do about half of it and just mix it up in there. And then after I get it pretty well mixed up, not completely, I'll go ahead and put the rest in and finish mixing it. So then go ahead and put the rest. So I don't need quite all of it, so I'm just going to get another spoon so I won't get the pudding in there. So I'm going to use about 12 ounces. They used to sell 12 ounces. They don't do that anymore. At least I can't find them down here. But so I use about 12 ounces of the Cool Whip and the whip topping, and then just mix it up pretty good, and then you'll be all set to go to make the actual pudding or Eclair. Like Eric said, the kids are constantly asking me to make this. I usually only make it in the summertime because it is really cool. I make it when we go to cookouts or for like Father's Day, or usually Easter's when we start making it again, because I try to make other desserts in the fall and winter, but they always want me to make this. Every weekend they come over, they go, "Did you make chocolate Eclair today?" So anyway, so now that we have that all mixed up, all we're going to do is layer some graham crackers. So I do put a layer of graham crackers on the bottom. I'll show you how to do that. So I do break my corner off a little bit just because my pan is rounded, and I try to use one that has a lid just because it's a lot easier to take care of. So I'm just going to put a layer of graham crackers in the bottom, and I try to cover the whole bottom, so I will have to cut some of them, but it's not that big a deal, which is why I have my board right here. So and again, I want to cut that little corner piece just because my pan is rounded. So, and then we just take what we can and put it in there. Now I like to put my graham crackers upside down, but I don't think it really makes a difference. It's just me. I just like to do it that way. But any way you do it, it's going to be good. It just seems like this side's flatter, and it's a little bit easier to work with. So All right, so now we got to the point where it's kind of like not a whole thing, so I just kind of break it in half. Well, that didn't break, right? Okay, so I just kind of break it in half and just try to cover the bottom as well as I can. And the bottom there. And then just try to measure this a little bit. Well, these are all broken in the package, which sometimes you'll get that, but they work. It tastes the same no matter what. So now I'm going to put about half of my pudding and Cool Whip mixture on top. I don't always get it even, but it doesn't really matter. It's all going to be in there. So some layer might be a little bit bigger than the other, but it's not a big deal if it is. And just spread the the pudding mixture on top of the graham crackers. But like I said, this is so refreshing when it's hot out and stuff and you just want something nice and cool, or even just because you don't want to turn the oven on to bake something when it's so hot outside. Down here we get some pretty hot days down here in Texas, so I like to try to stay away from the oven as much as possible. So we're going to just go ahead. Now we're going to put another layer of graham crackers on top of this. And then just put the rest of the pudding on after we get this on. But you can see how simple it is. It's very easy to make. Novice cooks, new married couples can make it. This is one of the recipes that I gave to my new granddaughter-in-law, one of Eric's sons. His oldest son just got married, so she loves it too. So I gave her the recipe for this because it's very, not that she's not a good cook, but it's really easy to make, so you don't have to be a good cook in order to make something like this. I think the most time is just layering it is probably takes the most time. Okay, I'm gonna cut these a little bit because it's a little bit bigger than the 1/2. So, oops, I forgot to break my corner. And you can see when you don't break the corner, it doesn't fit in there real well, but I'm not gonna take it back out. So, well, maybe I will. Just so it'll fit back in there better. There we go. That fits a little bit better. So, and I don't waste what these are here because what I do is I'll crumble them up and put them on the topping, which I'll show you when we get ready to do that. After we make the topping for it. So, and that fits in there pretty good. So then we just put the rest of the pudding and the Cool Whip. Didn't get it quite mixed up as good as I like, so we'll just stir that up a little bit and put the rest of the pudding and Cool Whip on top. And it's so good you don't want to miss a drop. So we just scrape it out of there, put it on, put it in. And it looks like I did get a little bit more in the first layer than I am on this layer, but you cut it and it's all together anyway, so it doesn't really matter. It's not a big deal. It tastes the same. And because mine's not a clear glass dish, you can't see it anyway, so nobody knows. Anyway. So, and then just put that in there. Scrape all that in there. Don't want to miss any of that goodness. Oh no, I'll need that, so I'll have to leave that there. Okay, I think that's about the best I can get it. So now we just put another layer of graham crackers on top. Okay, so this is all that there is to this part. Now usually I'll let this sit for, an hour or so, just so it kind of cools off a little bit. And then, or not really cools off, it kind of sets from all the Cool Whip and the pudding and stuff. This is the icing that you make for it, which was what makes it the chocolate part of it. So we're gonna come over here to the stove. Okay, so the icing part, or the topping and the chocolate, whatever you wanna call it, is pretty simple too, because it's basically half of everything. So I have a half a stick of butter, or you can use margarine if you prefer that. I have half a cup of cocoa powder. I have a half a cup of sugar. And I like to put a little sprinkle of salt in things. I just really think it brings out the flavor, even of chocolate, to bring it just a little sprinkle of salt in there. And then you put a half a cup of milk in it. And I also use the almond milk for this too, because again, we have a couple that are a little dairy sensitive. Now I have the unsweetened almond milk, but you could use the vanilla flavored almond milk too for both this and the pudding part. But I like the unsweetened part because I think it's sweet enough with everything else that there is. So I'm just gonna go with that. So anyway, so then you just kind of cook just combine it, let it cook. So once you get it combined, you just have to let it cook for about 4 minutes. Like once it comes to a boil, you want to let it boil for about 4 minutes. And be careful because it's very hot and chocolate burns easy. So be careful not to let your chocolate scorch on the bottom. So I usually use a spoon at first just to kind of mix it all up. Then I kind of like my whisk because it kind of smooths it out a little bit. And once the butter starts melting, it'll be a little bit better. But the whisk definitely helps make it smoother. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over to my whisk now and just whisk it so kind of the lumps and stuff kind of get out of there. But once it starts to boil, you can turn it down and just let it, I usually set a timer because I'm afraid, because I walk away from it, I'm afraid I'll let it burn. So, and forget about it. I've been known to do that. So anyway, I just, once it gets to a boil, I will turn it down and let it boil for 4 minutes. And you can stir it every once in a while, but you don't need to continuously stir it like sometimes when you cook chocolate on the stove top. As long as you turn it down, you won't have to continue stirring it. So you can see the whisk is making it a lot smoother than it was when I first started. And just try to make sure you get all the corners or whatever you have on your pot there, so that everything will be mixed up real good. You can see now how smooth it is. It's definitely a lot smoother with the whisk. But if you don't have one, the spoon will work. You just have to keep stirring it and just get all the, as it gets warmer, it'll cook the lumps out anyway, because it's just basically butter, milk, sugar, and cocoa powder. Another thing you can do is you can make your base like we already did, and then you can get some canned cherry pie filling and put that on the top of it, and that makes it nice and cool too. Okay, so mine's starting to boil a little bit, so I'm going to go ahead and turn the flame down low, and then I'm going to set my timer for 4 minutes. Okay, so the 4 minutes is up, so we're going to turn it off, and you can just see, I'll use the spoon so you can see how much thicker it is. So that definitely, you can see the thickness of it. You don't want to put it on right now because it'll be too hot. So you're going to have to let it cool 10 minutes or longer. The topping has cooled, and as you can see, I'm going to stir it up because I'm getting ready to pour it on now. But as you can see, it's definitely a lot thicker than even when we turned it off, and that's what you want. So, but it's been cooling for, actually ended up letting it cool for half an hour. Again, it doesn't really matter how long you let it cool. You just stir it back up before you spread it on. Now, I will have to say, when you do this, be kind of quick because it will set even more. It won't be, it'll still be okay, taste okay, but it won't be so shiny if you take a long time to spread it, because the shininess from the chocolate will kind of go away because you keep spreading it and it just is getting more solid, and it won't be as pretty, but it'll taste the same. So it doesn't really matter if it doesn't have that shininess to it. You can see there's a little bit of shininess to it. So we're gonna, and then I just use this offset spatula I have. It's just a lot easier to spread it than trying to use the spoon, and then just spread it all the way. And it's not gonna be real thick. You're not gonna get a lot on the top, but you really don't need a lot because that little bit just gives it that chocolate flavor that you need. And so I usually just spread it to the corners. You can see it's not going to be a real thick icing or topping, but you just want to try to cover all the way to the edges. Sometimes I leave a little piece of it without the chocolate because one of the grandkids doesn't like the chocolate because it's a little bitter, believe it or not. But once you eat it all together, it doesn't taste bitter. At least I don't think it tastes bitter, but evidently he does. So I'll usually leave a little piece plain. But it's for the 4th, and we're having a lot of company and a lot of desserts, so I figure that he'll probably eat something that he can run around with rather than sitting down to eat a dessert. So this is more or less for the adults this time. So so that's pretty well smoothed out, and you can see it's still nice and shiny. So what I'm going to do, so I was telling you that I don't waste my crumbs. I don't usually use all of them. We'll see when we start sprinkling, but this is the crumbs that I had left over from my graham crackers from cutting it. So I just usually sprinkle it on the top. It just kind of makes it a little bit fancier, or just a little more decorative, I guess, as you want to say. But, you know, you can put as much or as little as you want on there. I kind of, you know, just till it looks good. And everybody thinks different things look good. So you may not like it like this, and you don't have to put this on here. But it's something that I do just so I don't waste all the cracker that I don't use. One final suggestion I have for when you make this, you know, the cookies are kind of crispy. So if you make it the night before, it'll give it a time to get soft, and it just makes it so much better to do that. You could serve it the same day you make it, but it's definitely going to be nicer, better if you let it set overnight. I usually make it the night before we have an event that we're going to take it to, or people coming over to eat it. There you have it. A nice, cool summer dessert, chocolate eclair.
All right, well, there you have it. Wonderful job, Mom. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Wonderful dessert. No matter where you go, this is another one that will knock it out of the park. Guaranteed. Serve this at any kind of cookout, picnic, anything where you're outside, or even if you're inside, it is going to go quick. Trust me. It is delicious. So great job to Mom. I want to give a special shout out once again to Granny Moreno, Gail's Southern Living, and Yogi Hollow Farm for putting this collaboration together. This is our cool summer dessert. Try it, you're going to love it. So we appreciate you for taking time to watch this. Who likes good desserts? Farmers do. Don't forget that. Make sure you hit the thumbs up, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Show Mom some love with her first video out here on YouTube world. We appreciate you. Until next time, peace. Go ahead.
I thought you were doing the introduction.
I'm just here for control of the camera.
I thought you were going to say like PLR.
Oh, you want me to say something?
Why don't you introduce the website, I guess.
All right, so when I point at you like this, then you start your spiel.
Okay.
I already pointed at it. When I point at you, then...
Okay, so this is...
Not yet, my hands.
Eric!
Introduction to the website. Who's walking back there? You can't walk in the shot. Who? Dad?
Dad.
Dad. You're supposed to say it like...
Peace.
No. You gotta get down deep. Right? Peace. Peace.